Individual matchups to watch for Tennessee at Ohio State and who wins the game. A very special guest going to join us here on a Wednesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Happy Wednesday and welcome into Locked On Vols with Eric Cain here, the host of Locked On Vols. Couldn't do the show without you every dayers, so I really do appreciate you guys for being back once again. I do want to thank our friends over at TNT, ABC, ESPN, and Max. The college football playoffs are here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The college football playoff presented by Allstate begins with 4 first-round games December 20th, 21st, and you can find them on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and of course, Max. Got a fun show coming up today. Got a couple guests. Word Wednesday, regular schedule program right there in segment number 3. But here in segments 1 and 2, going to talk with the host of Smothered and Covered podcast, Barrett Sallee, covering all things college football. A new show here to Locked On this football season, so it's been a whole lot of fun. I've interviewed Barrett several times with my work at the radio station, followed his work for quite some time, and he's really good at what he does. What's he have to say about Tennessee, Tennessee's chances at Ohio State, individual matchups to be looking out for, all that and more? We'll listen to Barrett Sallee here in just a matter of seconds. So, I guess we'll jump down into it right now. Here's my conversation, part 1 of my conversation with Barrett Sallee. Barrett, thanks so much for joining us, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Just getting ready for the first 12-team playoff. And look, I'm not the biggest playoff proponent, but having on-campus playoff games, especially this weekend when we have some historic locations like Notre Dame and Austin, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, college football always just skips by. You blink and the regular season's over with. We're about to start this expanded version of the college football playoffs. I know you said you're not the biggest proponent for it, but still, it is here. Kind of thoughts going into the weekend. I know, the matchups are going to be pretty good, but it's a new era officially in college football, and we're going to see what it looks like here coming up this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to see kind of the culmination of the last 2 months of the sport, because it did seem like the sport in terms of the casual sports fan, gained a lot of steam. You saw it discussed more on national shows and things like that. So, I think when it's going up against the NFL on Saturday and you have Notre Dame by itself on Friday night, you're looking at a really good litmus test of where college football stands in terms of casual sports fans. So, and it's exciting. I think you look at the games, the matchups, there are storylines abound in every single one, and it'll give us a good show of what is it, 16 hours of college football over a 2-day period, all of it having massive ramifications. So I'm excited about it.
When you look at Tennessee and Ohio State specifically, we've had a couple of weeks to kind of stew on this, obviously, but I know you cover all of college football, you cover a lot of the SEC. What do you like about this matchup for the Volunteers? What are your thoughts kind of entering this weekend, Tennessee at Ohio State?
Yeah, last time we saw Ohio State, it didn't go very well. And the biggest reason for that was the offensive line. And I thought, the injuries, you have a little bit of time to heal up, but, still that offensive line really hadn't been great all year. And what we know about Tennessee is that really the strength of Tennessee is its defense, and Dylan Sampson. But its defense has been rock solid all year long. And so that, to me, is the most interesting matchup. What happens with Will Howard if he gets pressure in his face? I think against good teams, in critical situations, we've seen that he doesn't handle it very well. And I've never really been the biggest Will Howard guy, but, he's still talented. But if you're getting a lot of pressure in your face, which I think he will, you got to make quick decisions. And he hasn't done an awful lot of that. So excited about that matchup. Really excited to see what Ohio State's defense does against Dylan Sampson. Ohio State's defense really good, especially that front seven. They have the safety, and Caleb Downs is not afraid to go stick his nose in and make some tackles too. So, Dylan Sampson against that group is going to be fascinating, and I can't wait to see what Josh Heupel does in terms of getting Dylan unique looks, giving Ohio State something different to look at, a different picture, so to speak. And so, those two matchups I think are going to be fascinating. And ultimately, I think that's what's going to decide the game.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what Dylan Sampson and the Tennessee offensive line, does against the good rushing attack, the rush defense, rather, for Ohio State. I think Ohio State's ranked 8th in defending the run in the country. Tennessee's ranked 9th. Very similar teams. Another matchup that I'm really, excited to watch outside of that one, Tennessee D-line versus the banged-up O-line from Ohio State, is Ohio State's wide receivers, a couple of guys are going to be in the NFL, probably 3, maybe 4 on this roster that
all of
plays.
them.
Yeah. Going up against Tennessee's secondary where Jamal McCoy's an All-American. What a pickup he was in the transfer portal last year. Ricky Gibson is starting to come along as a true sophomore as well on the other side. Tennessee's safety, not as good as a corner, but solid. And, of course, you're only as good as your front line is in front of you. I understand that. What do you like about this matchup? It's hard not to like Ohio State just because of the numbers they have at receiver, but I think this is going to be a really good kind of chess match to see Tennessee's secondary against Ohio State's wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, if Ohio State puts Tennessee in situations where their corners are in 101, I don't care how good they are. They're not going to win. Ohio State's going to win those battles. That's just, they have their receivers are so good. And so, I think the biggest challenge for that defense is how do you prevent that? How do you get Will Howard off its mark? And like you said, the best friend of a secondary is pressure up front. And generally speaking for Tennessee, that's been a big reason why they've had such success defensively is that, quarterbacks have been rattled consistently. They've even knocked some out of the game just because they get in their heads, like Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma. So, I think that's something to keep an eye on. If you get Jeremiah Smith against anybody on an island, Jeremiah Smith's winning. I mean, that's how good he is. Emeka Egbuka as well. So, I think that's the biggest challenge for Tennessee is avoiding those situations. I don't care how good McCoy or anybody else is. You just can't live like that. And to Michigan's credit, they didn't live like that. They did a good job. Oregon, enough of a job. They got ahead of them a little bit. I mean, Jeremiah Smith still had 100 yards, I think, that game. But it's that's how Ohio State beat you. That's their secret sauce, and it's not so secret.
So how does Tennessee defend that? Again, it's get pressure at the quarterback, accelerate that clock. Force Will Howard into throwing the football to you. I understand all that. But does Tim Banks, Tennessee's defensive coordinator, have to mix up some coverages, run man, zone, bring some pressure from the second level? I mean, if you were calling plays against, this group of wide receivers, kind of what would your mindset be to try to, because again, they're going to win some, obviously, but try to slow them down.
Yeah, Will Howard up. You get pressure up the middle. Bring linebackers up the middle.
No.
Get creative with stunts in the middle. Like if you get Will Howard off his mark, and he's not going to be successful. He can step up in the pocket. He can take off running, right? So if you're getting pressure off the edge, if Pierce is getting pressure off the edge, that's awesome. That's great. Usually he's going to win those battles, but Will Howard's mobile enough to step in and realize, hey, nothing's there. I'm going to take off. So how do you prevent that? You get pressure up the middle. And I fully expect, the defensive staff for that to be the foundation of their game plan is making sure that he can't take off, but stays running for his life. And, I think they're going to try to do it without blitzing. And they've got the dudes to do that up front. But if they have to blitz, they have to blitz. And even still, I think that secondary is good enough to take advantage of mistakes that will inevitably come.
Yeah, and if things aren't going well defensively, you got to keep mixing it up. This front four is absolutely good enough to win those battles. Didn't against Georgia, so you can't fall into the same patterns of just calling the same things and not trying to mix some things up like maybe you did in 23 at Florida and then of course at Georgia this past year. But at the end of the day, you got to go out and execute, and that's easier said than done. Look at Ohio State's 1-2 punch in the backfield. Last offseason we talked about how dangerous that can be with Henderson and Judkins, and of course it's been nothing short of that. Offensive line, obviously some issues up front, so the numbers might not be as large as we expected. But still, I think Ohio State's going to try to rely on that run game, and Tennessee's really good at defending the run. I think that's something to where if Tennessee wants to win this football game, just be who you are. Tennessee's really good at defending the run, and then make Will Howard go out there and make those throws. And again, he's got a lot of great weapons on the outside, but kind of what we were just talking about is, accelerate the clock a little bit, force them into bad decisions. But it all starts with trying to shut down the run. Can Tennessee's rush defense shut down the two-headed monster that is Ohio State?
Yeah, I think they can. I've never been the biggest Quinshon Judkins fan, even when he was a freshman at Ole Miss. It felt like he disappeared for significant periods of time. And I don't really know why that was. It just felt like he kind of got into his head a little bit. And I don't think Travion Henderson is in it completely. I think there's something wrong with him. And I say that, not being a doctor, but he doesn't look like he looked, as a freshman or sophomore. So, I think that Tennessee can fully take advantage of that. And the offensive team of Ohio State, it was going downhill, I think, throughout the course of the season, and it kind of all culminated in that loss to Michigan. But I just can't imagine it's 100%. I can't imagine them suddenly having, this resurgence and coming back to life. And, it's McLaughlin suddenly realizing that he can snap the ball again, So I think stopping the run against this particular Ohio State team at this time is a lot easier now than it was week 2, week 3, week 4. And Tennessee certainly got the dudes to do that.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action this weekend with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game and you can check out the latest stats, you can view the live play-by-play and so much more on the safe, secure, easy-to-use app on the same page where you place your initial bets. So you can do all that and more at FanDuel.com. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, that's only FanDuel Sportsbook or on the safe, secure, easy-to-use app. That's the FanDuel Sportsbook app where you can make every single moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Do want to give a shout-out as well to our friends over at Prize Picks. What is Prize Picks? The best place to get real money on sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made the daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less. At least 2 players for a shot to win up 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Again, you have a player grid. You pick at least 2, no more than 6, and they're going to give a stat-based projection. And all you have to do is click more or less. It's a whole lot of fun. And again, it's an easy way to win 1,000 times your cash. And if you go to PrizePicks.com, put in that promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Locked On College. You're going to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Put in the promo code Locked On College to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, you can run your game this basketball and this football season. What have you thought about Nico Iamaleava this season? Over the course of the season, first-year starter, redshirt freshman, we know about his story, one of the most hyped college football players entering college, maybe ever. And, of course, he's taken some lumps at points and times, but, from my perspective, covering the team every single day, I think you can visibly see he's grown and gotten better. He's gotten more confident. He's made some big-time clutch throws in the Alabama game. Even Vanderbilt, when you're down 14-0, the first 4 minutes of the game, couple third downs on that second drive for Tennessee, and he came up big. From the outside looking in, and I know you watch a lot of Tennessee games, but what have you thought about Nico Iamaleava this season, and how big is he going to have to be in this football game?
Honestly, he's kind of what I thought he was, which is not necessarily the kind of player that maybe he was hyped up to be. And I warned Tennessee fans about this before the season. I was like, look, you can't get Joe Milton syndrome. Like, you just can't do it. I know he had a good bowl game. It wasn't great. It was a decent bowl game. He's not suddenly going to come in and light the world on fire. He's going to be okay. He's not going to be Hendon Hooker, and he's not going to be Joe Milton. He's going to be something in between. And I think that's where he is, right? He's clearly he's not ready to be a star. We saw that throughout the course of the season. I don't think they trusted him, to be honest with you. I think Josh Heupel was trying to coach around him for the first half, 3/4 of the season to get him comfortable. And I don't think he's really fully comfortable yet, but he's good enough to get the job done. Just so, I think expecting anything beyond that, I think, was a little irresponsible and maybe falling into the trap, the Joe Milton trap from a year ago. Is he going to go win you a game? No. Could he have won you a game during the regular season just on him? Probably not. Can he do it in the playoff this year? Probably not. Could he do it moving forward? Yeah. So, he's a first-time starter. He's not going to go be Johnny Manziel. Not many people are going to do that. And I think expecting more beforehand was probably not fair to Tennessee and certainly not fair to Nico.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is, right? I mean, fans are short for fanatics, and all the hype, 5 stars, #1 overall recruit in the 22 cycle per on 3. the NIL,
$45 million contract.
And so, the Heisman talk.
That contract's going to be at $1 billion soon, the way people talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, that the way that the Heisman talk in the preseason, all that, it just wasn't fair to anybody. I mean, it wasn't fair to him, wasn't fair to Tennessee fans, but that's just kind of where we are as fanatics. And of course, it's an easy headline to write and an easy talking point, but I'm intrigued to see how he kind of handles all that. I thought he handled himself very well in Athens a couple of weeks ago. Thought he played really well. I mean, was he perfect? No.
Wasn't his fault.
Yeah. I mean, what his fault altogether, but I thought he did a really good job. It's going to be cold on Saturday, and the national media is trying to make this a huge talking point. It gets cold in Knoxville too. It's not cold today, but how much of a factor do you think the cold weather? It's looking like a high of 31. Of course, it's going to be, the sun won't be out. The winds maybe 10 to 15 miles an hour. How much of a factor do you think that's going to play in this game?
Well, Tennessee doesn't like it. You know who also doesn't like it? Ohio State players.
Yeah.
Playing in the cold sucks.
Yeah.
It just sucks. That's like when people say, oh, it's snow, it's football with it. Like, hell no, it's not. 62, sunny, crisp, little bit of a breeze. That's football weather. I mean, Tennessee's not going to be as accustomed to it. Tennessee's players are not going to be as accustomed to it as normal, but it's cold. It sucks to play football in the cold. It's hard to play football in the cold. And I'm not a meteorologist, but I'm pretty sure for about 2 months of the season, it's pretty nice in Columbus too, right? So It's not like they're going out there and practicing in a freezer, right? It's still the most overblown thing I think that we talk about.
It's not like Tennessee's playing home games in South Beach. I mean, on both sides.
And there are a lot of players at Ohio State, since there are a lot of good high school players down here in the Southeast footprint. Some of them play for Ohio State, and they don't like the cold either. So, I mean, it's not that to me is overblown. And I guarantee you, if a Southern team loses to a Northern team this week, just one, it's going to be proof that the SEC sucks and blah blah blah. God, come on.
Yeah. I know you got a couple more shows coming up this week, and I know you got a lot to get into, so I don't want to take anything away if you're going to do a pick show or anything, but if you want to give a pick, please do. But more so than anything, how do you see this game going, Tennessee at Ohio State?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tennessee is a significantly better team. I think Ohio State's fragile. I think they're sick of hearing, or that they know that the reason the Ryan Day stuff exists is because they didn't live up to expectations, but they can't live up to expectations because I said this all offseason. Will Howard is not a difference maker at quarterback. He's not a liability, but he's not a difference maker. And I think it's clear that they know that. And Tennessee is perfectly equipped to not only take advantage of his shortcomings, Tennessee is also perfectly capable of keeping Ohio State's offense on the sideline. So to prevent those big plays, if Will Howard, throws a 50-50 ball to Jeremiah Smith, Jeremiah's probably going to catch it, right? I don't care who he's up against. So keeping that offense on the sideline is pivotal, and Dylan can do that. So I think Tennessee gets the job done. I will have a pick show probably Thursday. I mean, man, I'm leaving for Notre Dame Thursday. I have my schedule's all jacked up, so maybe it's tomorrow. But yeah, I'll have a pick show. But spoiler, I'll pick Tennessee to win that one.
Yeah, you and I both are traveling this weekend to go to college football playoff games. Christmas is next weekend, so it's always fun to find time to record a show, but we're certainly blessed to do it. Before I let you go, I want to ask you a bigger college football question. It's an off-season conversation, obviously, but it's happening right now. You have teams practicing and about to play in the college football playoff. You have guys leaving said teams, entering the transfer portal. Some are still playing with teams, most are not. It's just, you got coaches trying to re-recruit your own roster. It is just wild. It's chaotic. Your thoughts on where we are right now in the month of December, and have you thought of a way to fix it? Not that it's going to be fixed, or not that this will happen tomorrow. What needs to happen to kind of ease this month of December for college football coaches?
Well, I think first things first, the high school national signing day needs to move back to the first. It's still there, but the early one has to be erased. Now, I know they moved it up, and I talked to Rhett Lashley on my show last week, and he said that was fine, but it's still a lot to deal with. James Franklin went off on this with Bo Perbula with their backup quarterback leaving, and he was like, "Look, I don't blame the kid at all, and they're in the playoffs this weekend, right?
Yeah.
blame him either. Like you got to look out for yourself at times. And, it sucks because you have situations where, a potential contributor, Bo Perbula could go in and help, if not lead Penn State to a national championship this year if Drew Allen is hurt. But he's got to look out for himself. We saw this with Malik Murphy last year at Texas. He was the backup to Quinn, not Arch Manning, and he left, before the playoff. Like, it's awful. It's terrible. And there's no way to fix it because with the expanded playoff, you just take up more of the calendar, right? So if the idea of the transfer portal is to get players out and in before the start of the academic year, and yet you have semifinals and a national championship after the academic year has already started for basically every school in the country.
Except Tennessee. That's like one of the only ones, but go ahead.
Yeah. It's like, how do you do this?
Yeah.
How do you go about it? And there's no way to do it. So, and you can't eliminate the transfer portal in the winter. Like you have to be able to move around if you're a player. And so you can't change that. You can't go back in time. But my suggestion would be to go back in time, get a flux capacitor, go back 15 years and kick Mark Emmert in the tail and say, dude, fix this, get your heels out of the ground and start to do something. But there's nothing you can do. Coaches hate it. And I've said this on my show, and I've talked to a lot of coaches about this. There are going to be a lot of folks who take the Jeff Hafley approach from last year, leaving Boston College to go be an assistant at the NFL level. Chip Kelly leaving UCLA to go be an assistant. They just don't want to deal with it. They just don't want to deal with it. And let's just say you have a $50 million buyout. Let's just say I'm the head coach at whatever university. And if a school wants to fire me, they buy me out with $50 million, but I have to pay them 10 if I want to leave. There are going to be a lot of coaches say, look, let's just make it 20 and let's just move on because I don't want to deal with this crap anymore. It's going to be a lot doing that.
And you brought up Chip Kelly, too, and most people say, well, he's still in the college realm. Yeah, most coordinators don't have the heaviest dosing of recruiting and all that type of stuff. You're still in it, but it's much different than being the head coach. So,
yes,
I'm with you right there. I think we're going to lose a lot of good coaches. And, again, off-season conversation, but it is unfortunate. Barrett, great stuff, man. Thanks so much for joining us. Great podcast. Tennessee fans, if you want to listen to, Southeastern Conference perspective, really just all college football, Barrett does an awesome job in doing it for so long. Have fun this weekend at the Notre Dame and Indiana game, and look forward to talking with you hopefully next week or the week after if Tennessee can get this win.
My pleasure. Praying for no snow. No snow. Terrible.
It is that time of the year. The college football playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the College Football Playoff begins December 21st, starting with the College Football Playoff Kickoff Show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Leading to our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 o'clock Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the College Football Playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Josh Ward, it is, it was a couple weeks off, but it's game week once again. Hopefully, this is not the last football game week we'll have this year. It's going to be a tough one, obviously, but Tennessee, Ohio State, it is finally here. Well, just a couple of days away, but thoughts this week. How are the vibes on the radio station over at WNML?
They are positive. Tennessee fans are optimistic. We've been out on remote this week, and fans have stopped by and talked about the confidence they have in Tennessee's chances going up to Columbus. I think fans recognize it'll be a tough game, that Ohio State has a lot of talent, but the way Tennessee finished, the way Ohio State's final game went, and just natural fandom. This is a big opportunity. Tennessee fans are believing in what Tennessee will be able to do this weekend.
When you look at, I'm just going to get the weather question out of the way because obviously I got to ask it at some point. It's not going to get above freezing. No, Tennessee does not play home games at South Beach. And, last time Barrett brought this up, last time I checked, it's pretty pleasant and pretty warm in Columbus for a good portion of the season as well. Weather, any factor, overblown. We're not talking about it enough. The coldness. Do you think that's going to play a big hand in this football game?
I don't think so. Maybe it affects some players, but maybe it affects players on Tennessee. Maybe it affects players on Ohio State. One thing that we brought up on the show, both teams have players who come from elsewhere. Tennessee and Ohio State both recruit outside of their territories. Ohio State recruits nationally. So they have players from California, from Florida, from the Southeast that are on that roster because that's where a lot of the best players in the country are. So maybe it will. I know that Nico's from California. I don't think he came to Knoxville with a ton of cold weather experience. So again, maybe it will. I think that's too big of a talking point for some. If you want to bring up Tennessee on the road, just in general, Tennessee on the road at night, yeah, that's a real talking point. The cold weather, I don't think that's a big deal.
Individual matchups, or maybe not specifically individual, but maybe position group on position group. What are some of the bigger matchups in this game that you're going to be watching for?
Well, what Tennessee's defense does up front against Ohio State. Ohio State has talent on the offensive line, but they're missing some of that talent. They're at center and on at the tackle position. On the offensive line for Ohio State, how do they protect the quarterback? Can they get the running game going? They did not against Michigan. Now, Michigan on the interior has big-time defensive line play. Mason Graham's one of the best in the country. Tennessee has a lot of talent and a lot of depth, what we've talked about all season long with what Tennessee can do. So that's the matchup I'm probably most interested in. You can go both sides of the ball. Tennessee's offensive line against Ohio State's talented defensive front because they need to protect Nico. They need to run the football. I have confidence that Dylan Sampson will be able to find success on the ground. But elsewhere, I would say what Tennessee's secondary does against this group of wide receivers that Ohio State has, they are talented. Jeremiah Smith is one of the top freshmen we've seen at really any position, but that position, he's all Big Ten to start out, close to 1,000 yards on the season, just a big-time playmaker. And they have three guys that are future NFL players, Carnell Tate, who Tennessee fans remember from recruiting, and then Ibuka, what he's able to do in his experience. That is a big matchup. Jermon McCoy, though, he is an all-SEC player himself at corner. So I'm maybe most interested in that. I think the conversation has to start up front with both lines of scrimmage.
Josh Ward, Jermon McCoy hater, didn't even mention he's an All-American as well. So there's that.
Yeah, well, you're right. I also didn't mention all the All-American status that you can find with Ohio State. So, look, Tennessee has a good roster and talent that can match up with Ohio State. Ohio State's more talented across the board. No NFL scout's going to come in and say, I'll take Tennessee's roster just on talent on paper with what Ohio State has. But, I mean, Jermon McCoy would be one of the first players you bring up to say, okay, I like our chances to be better than a lot of teams can be against what Ohio State has on the outside because of how big time McCoy has been this year.
Yeah, just kind of poking fun there with Josh, but that kind of does remind me, I mean, you talk to a lot of people this week and, you know, maybe just the casual fan of whoever, maybe Ohio State, Tennessee, college football, and like, oh, Tennessee, Ohio State? Oh, man, Ohio State sucks. You see them last time they played against Michigan? That's awful. They've also played 10 other games or 11 other games where they've been really, really good this year for the most part, right? Even in their losses, their other loss to Oregon, you know, scored some points and all that. So I would assume that Ohio State's going to play better in this game. And you know, what's Tennessee's counterpunch? We'll see.
Yep.
You know, I look at Tennessee as well, and I like Dylan Sampson, his ability to run the football, and I think it all kind of starts up there. I like Nico's ability to play action pass. I think Tennessee is equipped to do what it does best, and that's run the football more so than what Ohio State is. And, you know, because, of course, they got that banged-up offensive line, and then kind of going back to what you said earlier, bringing pressure up the middle, speeding that clock up for Will Howard, I think it's an opportunity for Tennessee to go and try to pick that pass off and see what happens. I think anywhere you look at it, it's going to be a lower scoring game, in my opinion. I don't necessarily, I could always be wrong, but I don't necessarily see a blowout one way or the other. Yeah,
let's see how Will Howard responds because he played a big role in Ohio State not winning the game against Michigan. If you go back and watch the game, Ohio State should win based on a lot of things they were able to do. I'm not a big fan of using the word should in sports with results because, well, if they should have, why didn't they? But the answer in part is because Will Howard's turnovers. If he doesn't turn the ball over the way that he did, Ohio State wins the game. They also missed some field goals that would have given them a better chance to win the game. But Ohio State is better than what that result was. That game has become something, it appears, mentally for Ohio State. That's also one of my big questions. How does Ohio State respond? Does Ohio State spend this 3-week stretch from the Michigan game to the Tennessee game saying, let's go prove to everybody what we really are? We're the best team in the country. Let's go show it. If that's the case, they have a lot of talent that could prove that to be true. But if there is some kind of mental hang up that is carrying over, if Ohio State continues to make mistakes, if Will Howard turns the ball over again, and Tennessee should have all the confidence that it can force those kinds of mistakes, then Tennessee's going to have a really good chance to win this game on the road.
Last thing, man, out the door, and please utilize this word I'm about to say in your answer. Tempo, tempo, tempo. Sure, you can only run tempo if you win early downs, if you move the sticks, because it means you're on the field. Tempo is not really good if you go 3 and out, you know? If I'm Tennessee, man, I am slapping that in the face of Ohio State. Tempo, tempo, tempo. Because, again, I think Ryan Day even had the comment, earlier this week, and I completely agree with it because I've heard it before and it makes so much sense, right? You can't prepare to play a triple option team. Like in defense, you can't replicate that. You can't replicate the speed. You can say, okay, you're the gap player, you're the quarterback player, you're the dive player, all that and more, the pitch player, but you can't replicate it in practice. Ohio State cannot replicate the tempo in practice. They've seen tempo a little bit, but not like this. So if I'm Josh Heupel, Joey Halsley, Nico, I'm trying to win those early downs, and I'm trying to run tempo to kind of set the authority in this game, because that is something that Ohio State has not seen. Will it be enough to win the game? I don't know. Maybe it can help. Maybe it won't pay a difference at all. But I think that's something they haven't seen. And early on in football games back in 2021, it can hit you in the mouth a little bit.
Yeah, if Tennessee's able to do that with consistency, with sustained success throughout the game, I think that really helps Tennessee's chances of winning the game. Part of that comes back to Tennessee being successful. You're right. A quick 3 and out is no good for anybody on Tennessee's football team. It could really help Ohio State. That's why also penalties have been brought up and will be over the next few days. Tennessee cannot have pre-snap penalties. Tennessee cannot get in its own way. They need, if it's a quick throw to the outside to pick up 3 or 4 yards, they need to successfully complete that and then get going. A quick incompletion, a penalty to set them back over the last 4 years. That shows that can slow down Tennessee's offense. So on the road against an Ohio State team that has speed and has talent, Tennessee needs to be efficient in what it's trying to do on early downs to get going. And if they do that and they are able to use tempo offensively, I think that will be to the Vols' advantage.
Josh Ward hosts a radio show on The Sports Animal with VFL Jason Swain, noon to 3 weekdays. And, of course, that does his regular spot here on Ward Wednesdays and has the Josh and Swain newsletter that you can sign up to for free in the show notes. That comes out every Friday morning as well. Josh, a lot of Tennessee, Ohio State talk. What else is coming up the rest of the week on the show?
Yeah, so most of it is Tennessee, Ohio State, some playoff talk, Tennessee basketball talk. Ron Slay was on Tuesday. We have a full hour with the VFL and SEC legend, middle of the show on Tuesdays, the 1 o'clock hour. So recommend you go back and listen to that. Talking Tennessee basketball, and a passionate message from Ron this week for Tennessee's fan base ahead of the Ohio State game. So Tennessee, Ohio State, that is the lead all week long.
Yep, looking forward to listening to you guys later this afternoon. A complete hour's worth of recap of Tennessee and Western Carolina. So looking forward to that.
Big analysis, because every game matters, and that's the most recent.
Josh Ward, thanks as always, man.
Thanks, Eric.
Great stuff there as always from my friend Josh Ward. Fun show today. Not a whole lot from me. It's more or less from my guests, and I know you probably like it better that way as well. But we're going to have a crossover show coming up tomorrow, getting to catch up with Jay again with Locked On Buckeyes. Boogie Bentley's going to stop by the show on Friday. Again, I'm still trying to work out a time. Probably not going to be this week, but still trying to work out a time to where I can chat with Jerry Garantano, former Tennessee quarterback. So hopefully that'll be something here in the next couple of weeks that we can set up. But a fun show coming up today. The anticipation is building. The excitement is here. I've talked to so many of you guys, so many Tennessee fans who are going to make the trip up 5 hours from Knoxville to Columbus and to the Horseshoe to see Tennessee hopefully pull off a win in its first ever college football playoff game. Some good stuff there from Barrett Sallee and, of course, Josh Ward. Appreciate you guys as always. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll do it all again. This is Locked On Vols.